The Larry Kudlow Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Jonathan Turley, he's a constitutional law professor at George Washington University. He's Fox News legal analyst, brilliant guy, great guy. And he's got a new book out, very interesting new book, which is called Rage and the Republic, The Unfinished Story of the American Revolution. So, Jonathan, I've given the lead-in, the blood-soaked tyranny versus the oldest democracy, for your book, Rage and the Republic, The Unfinished Story of the American Revolution. So I did, but that's what we did on the TV show. But we left the TV show, and I knew this, but you mentioned it, that the founders, a bunch of the founders, were friendly with Adam Smith, corresponding with Adam Smith, the creator of capitalism, or the first writer of capitalism for the Scottish Enlightenment. And so how does it play into your book?
Well, thank you very much for having me on, Larry. It's an important part of the book because the second half of the book looks at whether this unique republic that we created can survive in the 21st century. And it looks back at the first half of the book, which are identifying those elements that came together that took us down a path different from France, which ended up in the Reign of Terror. And some of those elements are going to be vital in the 21st century. The most important that I identify is having a liberty-enhancing economy. And this goes back to Adam Smith and The Wealth of Nations, that book came out at the same year as our Declaration of Independence. And it wasn't a huge hit in Europe, but it was a hit here because the framers recognized what Adam Smith came up with as an economic theory as the perfect companion to their political theory, because ours was the first Enlightenment revolution. But the framers understood that if you didn't have economic independence, you couldn't be truly free. And so they embraced capitalism. And it was the combination of that economic and political theory that made this the model for democracies and made us the oldest and most successful democracy in history.
You know, it's just so interesting. France has never recovered. They never really embraced capitalism. I mean, maybe bits and pieces occasionally, but basically not. They're not the free market economy that we are. And here we are, Dow 50,000, Jonathan, plowing through 135 million people increasing their wealth because they own stocks. I mean, it's just an interesting story. And you're right, the Wealth of Nations came out in 1776. I forgot that. So now what about these modern Jacobins who are trying to tear the Constitution down? And you know what? I was going through your op-ed piece on Fox Digital, so that the head of the UCal Berkeley Law School wants to end the Constitution, change the Constitution. My friend John Yoo teaches law out there. He's a constitutionalist. I mean, but yeah, this Erwin Chemerinsky, dean of the UC Berkeley School of Law, which I guess has a lot of prestige or used to, he's the author of No Democracy Lasts Forever, How the Constitution Threatens the United States. Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Indeed, Larry, these are the voices that we heard before. These are what I call the new Jacobins, that they are actually calling for the elimination of the very things that proved the difference between us and the French Revolution, that avoided the Reign of Terror. They want to change the Supreme Court, pack the Supreme Court. They want to change the U.S. Senate. They want to have more sort of direct democracy. Those were all the things that the framers wanted to avoid. They believed that that would not result in a democracy, but a mobocracy. And you're absolutely right to bring up France, because I talk about it in Rage in the Republic. Many of these new Jacobins are mouthing the same mantras of Mitterrand and all of his government. That, he came in with his socialist government and actually appointed a minister of leisure, because he was telling the French, you're going to need help with all of the leisure time we're going to give you. And, of course, the economy collapsed. He had to bring back capitalism at great cost. But the current young generation has no memory or experience with the collapse of those socialist governments in the 20th century. And so they are in record numbers embracing socialism and communism because of these sort of platitudes from people like Mondani, who are saying, I'm going to introduce you to the warmth of collectivism. It's almost ripped directly from the pages of Mitterrand.
So, yeah, oh God, Mondani, I can't. I was having a good day. Now you're talking about Mondani ruining New York, but it's true. You got columnists, you got so-called pundits taking shots at the Constitution. The left in the United States taking shots at the Constitution. You think this? Look, you're a very, very smart guy. I think it will hold, though. I think the forces behind the Constitution who favor it will hold. I have to believe that, Jonathan. Otherwise, it's too depressing.
Well, I hope so, too. I'm an optimist. What I do know, and I say this in the book, is that we will not only survive the 21st century, even with robotics and AI challenges that we're going to face, the massive initial unemployment or job shift we're looking at, which is going to be unprecedented. We can survive all that if we hold tightly to this unique model of government that was created. We're going to need it more than ever. And if we do that, I'm very confident. I talked about Rage in the Republic in Prague, and one of the EU members in the audience said, well, why are you so optimistic about your own government? How about the EU? And I said, I would bet against the EU. I think that you are unlikely to survive the 21st century, in my view, because you have torn up the very things that I identify in the book as essential to facing these challenges. And my concern is not that you're going to collapse, which I think you will, but you're going to collapse in spectacular fashion. And history shows that when you have this consolidation of power, what comes after it is often tyranny. That is, you create the conditions for Napoleon Bonaparte, a single leader rule.
You're right. That's a good point. The single leader. The EU is, I would agree with you about the European Union. It was a lousy idea in the first place. And there's no constitution. What that is just a legalistic bureaucracy. But you talk about the importance of liberty to our founders. Liberty. You say the focus of the American Revolution was liberty, not democracy. It was the first Enlightenment revolution grounded in natural rights held by all of humanity. The founders saw direct democracy as leading to what one of them called a mobocracy. That's a very interesting point. Literally, liberty, the importance of liberty. That gets you the economic Adam Smith, and it gets you to the different politics here.
No, I think that's the real thrust of the book, that people forget that the framers didn't want Athenian democracy. Athenian democracy was a colossal failure. It collapsed, and it led to tyranny. So what the framers wanted was liberty. It's liberty that's mentioned in the Declaration of Independence, not democracy. And that's what the framers wanted to achieve. And what they saw soon after the creation of their own system was what happens when you don't have those precautions. And I write the book following the life of Thomas Paine to some extent, because he was one of only two figures that played a role in both the revolutions in the United States and in France. And Paine was not a great advocate of these precautions and limitations on democracy. And it damn near came close to killing him. He came within 24 hours of being guillotined. So he went to France and watched what happened. It did create a mobocracy. And what I say in the book about the new Jacobins today is I'm not saying that these people want to start, lobbing heads off. But I also remind people in the book, people like Robespierre were lawyers. Robespierre, when he started as a Jacobin, was espousing due process and the rights of man. So it corrupted him and the rest of the Jacobins.
Isn't that interesting? Of course, the lawyers. Oh, my God. Anyway, Jonathan Turley is a great lawyer. And the name of the book, folks, we've got to sell the book, The Rage and the Republic, the unfinished story of the American Revolution. It is out now. Get it on Amazon or wherever. Help out my friend Jonathan Turley. Sell lots and lots of books. Jonathan, have your publisher send me a copy of the book because I'm a poor, starving Fox host. You know, we can't afford all this high-priced literature, and I will read it forthwith. Thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate it, Jonathan Turley.
The Larry Kudlow Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I filed my return, but I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
What do I do?
My refund, though.
I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.